So in this video, I'm going to talk about an aspect of oil painting that I feel isn't talked about that much and how it can boost your paintings to a new level. All right, welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so that you can get better faster. So what's the thing that people don't really talk about with oil painting? It is confidence. So the way this video is going to go is I'm going to break down exactly what I mean when I say painting with confidence, and then I'm going to demonstrate what I'm talking about with a portrait painting demo. All right, I want to preface this video actually and say that everything I'm going to be talking about is based off just my personal taste. I always try and be clear in my videos that I'm not teaching the way to paint, I'm teaching a way to paint. I've always said if you come across somebody that says that they are teaching the way to paint. So what exactly am I talking about when I'm saying painting with confidence? For me, early on, I realized that the painters that I was drawn to the most were the ones whose paintings just exuded a tremendous amount of confidence. The ones whose paint looked like it was put down carelessly, but somehow magically was perfect. There's a strong sense that they had complete control of the paint. No matter how thick or how thin, they got the paint to do exactly what they wanted it to do. The way John Singer's Sargent could communicate a finger with what seemed to be like 3 brush strokes, or like how Edgar Payne would simplify his landscapes. I've always been chasing the ability to paint like that. And yes, a big part of being able to paint like that is just having a really strong skill set, really understanding the fundamentals, understanding color, value, simplification, drawing, edges, putting in thousands upon thousands of hours of practice. But I've also come to realize that a big part of being able to paint like that is to have a certain mindset. And that is the mindset that you can't really mess up. I mean, you can mess up. A better way to phrase that would probably be that you can easily fix any mistakes that you make. I mean, think about it. If you're doing anything and you know that you're going to be able to fix any mistakes that you do, it's going to cause you to be more free and loose. You're going to be more confident, and that's going to manifest in your work. And a lot of times it's easy to look at these masters' works and think that every single stroke they put down was absolutely perfect and they never had to repaint anything or rework stuff or scrape stuff or wipe it. And that's just not true. They were constantly reworking things, repainting things. It's just the end product looks like it was all done with the first stroke. Let's break this down even further. So the benefits of painting with oil paints opposed to other mediums is that they are very forgiving. I know a lot of people that start out with oil paints think the exact opposite. And whenever I'm out plein air painting, people always stop and ask what paints I'm using. And I say oil, so like, oh, those are very unforgiving. They're very, difficult to work with. And I really think it's the exact opposite. Like, I think watercolors are way more difficult to work with because, with watercolors, unless you're using gouache, if once you lose the white of the canvas, it's gone. Like, you can't really get that back. With oil paints, you can white paint, scrape paint, build it up thick, thin it out. Once the paint is on the canvas, you can manipulate that paint. You can change the color and value. It stays wet for a while, so you can really work it once it's on there. You can push it and pull it. And the biggest problem I see, which is something that I used to struggle with myself, is that people will paint in a way that doesn't take full advantage of the properties of oil paint, which is understandable because a lot of people come to oil paints from watercolors and acrylics, and they try and paint too careful and stay inside the lines. I also see people using a very small brush at the beginning of a painting. At the beginning of the painting, you want to be using a big brush. A lot of times when you do a very detailed drawing, it can force you to kind of paint as if you're working in a coloring book and you're just worrying about staying inside the lines. And you can paint that way, it's just you're going to run into problems if you try and be more bold or expressive or loose with your paintings. Now I'm gonna stop for a second. When I say bold and expressive and loose, don't get that confused with sloppy. A lot of times I see painters that will hide behind a loose style when it's really just sloppy and there's not a strong understanding of the fundamentals. I actually feel that when you are going for a looser style, you have to be that much better at the fundamentals. Your drawing has to be more on point. Your values, your colors, your simplification, edges, everything has to be better because you're not relying so much on detail to communicate your subject. So try and paint less carefully. I mean, don't close your eyes when you paint, but try and be more loose. especially at the beginning of the painting. You know, group a bunch of small shapes into bigger shapes. Keep your paint thin so you can build on top of it. Try and see how long you can carry out a stroke without lifting your brush off of the canvas. Use a big brush and work around the painting, not letting one area get more developed than another. It's very important to have a painting process that allows you to make mistakes and fix them, and to build and sculpt the painting as you go. So I'm gonna walk you through a painting to demonstrate further what I'm talking about. I'm gonna be doing a portrait because I feel like that's the subject that most painters wanna be, you know, more careful with. And I'm actually gonna be doing a copy of a John Singer Sargent portrait to push myself to be that much looser. Now, back to what I was saying about the difference between being loose and sloppy. When I'm doing my drawing, I want it to be accurate, not necessarily detailed. And to do this, I use a proportional divider to get some key measurements. I've gotten a lot of people ask me, like, where do I get a proportional divider? I actually have a link to the one I use in the description of this video. So I get some key points and I start drawing in with thin paint. Next, I scrub in my darkest dark so I have something to compare future values and colors to. As I'm painting, I'm still always thinking about drawing and where certain things are. This is why it's so important to practice your drawing, because even if you traced out your drawing, you're going to cover that drawing up with paint at some point, and you're going to be left to your observational skills to know where to put things. And if you haven't practiced drawing, your observational skills aren't going to be that good. And you're going to struggle and you're going to make a lot of mistakes throughout the painting. Then I lay in my background. I like to get something in for the background early on because it's going to allow me to do a lot of things. One, it's helpful to paint up against the head to better shape the outline and get that more accurate. Also, light and color is always bouncing and reflecting off things, and I find a lot of times I will work in the color of my background into my skin tones, and I will see a lot of that color in the face. Also, it's going to help when I want softer edges, especially for the hair. Then I break down the head into two major values. You know, I think of it like the light family and the shadow family. Now, I'm not gonna go much into color mixing in this video. If you struggle with color mixing, I highly suggest checking out the color mixing video from my Foundations of Oil Painting course. I actually have that available to you for free. The link to where you can get that is in the description of this video. Then I go into finding shifts of value and color within those light and shadow families. I'm not afraid to be bold here. I'm really trying to find the form of everything. You know, there's gonna be a lot of harsh edges and dramatic shifts in value and color, but that's okay. I know that I can smooth those downs and dial them in and work those transitions as I go. I'm really trying to work big shapes to small shapes. I'm also being very conscious not to stick in one area for too long. I make sure I don't do that by physically setting myself up so I can't. Meaning I paint with my arm fully extended, so you know, I'm at least a couple feet away from my canvas at all times. And even with that, I'll still constantly step a few feet back to get a wider view of things and see everything as a whole. And when I do that, I step back and I just look for things that stand out to me as wrong or things that annoy me. People always ask, how do you know when a painting's finished? I know a painting's finished when there's nothing on the painting that bothers me. You know, I have this process where I step back. It's like, all right, what's bothering me? Oh, that's bothering me up there at the hair. All right, step back. Oh, what's bothering me? Oh, down there at the chin, that thing's bothering me. And that process forces me to work around the painting. One area doesn't get developed too much. It also helps you catch mistakes when they're small mistakes opposed to big mistakes later on. I'm constantly adjusting things. In my head, no one part is done until the painting is done. Everything is up for change at any time. Once I have the form to where I like it, then it's time to start working transitions. Softening edges by laying down transitional colors, or sometimes, you know, just lightly blending two edges together. Don't get carried away with the blending. I'm also going through and dialing in values, making things lighter or darker where I think they should be. I always say so much of painting is repainting. And that should give you comfort and allow you to paint with more confidence, because once you let go of trying to make things perfect right off the bat and you know that you'll have the opportunity to fix things, you're gonna be a lot more confident with your painting. Like, I'm always making changes and fixing my paintings all the way up to the end of the painting. A lot of times I have to make some pretty big changes at the very end, and that's fine. And one last thing about painting with confidence, I also really believe that painting this way will make very clear to you which of the fundamentals you need to work on. I mean, every single time I complete a painting, I come away knowing a fundamental that I need to spend more time and get better on. And it's very clear to me because, while I'm painting and I'm moving fast and loose, there's a lot of things that come very easy to me that I feel like I get right pretty quickly. But then there's, other areas and things where I feel like takes a lot more work, a lot more trial and error to get right. And that's an indicator that, hey, you need to work on that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out any of my courses, I got links to those in the description below. If you want to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero, here telling you to go get painting.